So composing, collecting, recollecting, here and now, consciousness that we experience from this point, the body. In other words, I like to reflect on it, the center of the universe in terms of experience. Each one of us experiences the whole universe from this point, where you're sitting, where your body is. And so each one of us is the center of the universe, since the universe doesn't seem to have any dimension other than infinite. Well, we can't conceive of its boundaries. We can't see them or know them. This is a way of contemplating what it is to be a human individual in this sensory consciousness on this planet, in this universe. Not to see this personally as some kind of megalomania. It's just a reflection on the experience of life as one human individual for a lifetime, the age of your body. We have to be in this position from the birth to the death. So then this is the point, the center. Awareness is the gate to the deathless. The body is the death-bound condition. So it's, having been born, then it grows up, gets old and dies. But the awareness doesn't have any age to it. It's not, isn't the age of your body, but it is where the body, one can reflect on the body, the limitation of it, the nature of it, the experience of it. And then we not only have physical bodies to live with, but we have the conditioning process, the force of habit, the sensory. We have senses, so we have to experience the objects of senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, the thinking process, emotional feelings, greed, hatred, and delusion, jealousy, fear. But through all these changing conditions is this constancy of awareness. And this is what, like bhavana, is insight meditation, in other words, is recognizing this, reminding ourselves. Otherwise, we do get lost in the changing conditions. So instead of putting me as a person as the center, I experience my life, my body, I'm now taking Buddho, the Buddha. This is the refuge. So this is not a personal quality. I don't claim it as one of my qualities. It's a skillful use of a word to remind oneself of this center point, being this awareness itself, trusting it, coming from this center point, and reflecting, learning, and breaking down all the misunderstandings and illusions that we have been told are the real world, or the beliefs in that we're this person, that this body is mine, and the whole conditioning process, not to destroy it, but to no longer be deluded by these conditions. So this is awakened, an enlightened human individual is not some kind of personal, special quality. It's a natural state that is available to all human beings, and transcends the personal differences of appearance, of the body, of the different conditional habits one has. Thoughts and memories, identities, whatever those conditions might be, in their changingness. Our refuge now is in the constancy of the supernal mind that needs not move. This is mindfulness, sati sampajanya, intuitive awareness, so it's a watching, observing, knowing, but not projecting anything on. It discerns, it knows, but there's nobody knowing anything. It's not, it's not like it's mine, but it's pure knowing, and then we call it Buddho, knowing Dhamma, reality, awakened to the reality, to the deathless. So the deathless is the real, is reality itself. And the illusory conditions, the changing conditions, is not real. It's illusory. They are what they are. They have different qualities: pleasant, painful, beautiful, ugly, that change, that have no constancy to depend upon. And then this supernal mind that needs not move is superior to the necessity of fate. And that's an interesting way of putting it, necessity of fate. This word fate is the body itself. Its fate is death. These bodies, they all die. The necessity of fate is the nature of it's a necessity because it was born, and its nature is to die. But this supernal mind, as the quote goes, is superior. In other words, it's not a matter of being better, or it's not a judgment. It's just being able to see to be able to learn and bear with the necessities of fate and not be deluded by them. And if we don't know this, then we are constantly kind of caught in fears and anguish, despair, because of the necessity of fate. One of the reflections we do in the monastic life is, all that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. And that's rather, it's a rather stark reflection, because the personality was, all that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will be mine forever, and when I die I will be able to join all my loved ones and all that I love and cherish again in some other realm. We'll all meet together and live happily ever after in eternal happiness and harmony is dreamland. But the personality, doesn't, people don't like the idea of getting old and loss, isn't it? We dread the loss of what we depend on for our reality, of those people we love, with what we identify with. So that's the nature of ignorance, of conditionality, of attaching to desire to keep what is mine forever. If I could take, the multi-billionaire can take all the billions of pounds with him to heaven. I mean, if you can promise this, then you'll probably get quite a large following of devotees. Then this teaching of die before you die. And Ajahn Chah, he said, "Did you come here to die?" He kind of, he'd, kind of look at somebody like Western people who'd come to see him, and he'd look at them and say, "Did you come here to die?" And they'd all kind of be shocked, No, I came here to find the Dhamma and get over my fears and go to Nibbana. Because death is it's a very powerful word. And just observe what, I used to say death, inwardly, not necessarily voice it, but that word death, how does it affect me? It hasn't happened. Physical death hasn't happened yet, but I know it will. And so that word is. I remember when publishing that book, Mindfulness: Path to the Deathless, years ago, and they called it, first it was Path to the Deathless. And they didn't like the title because it had the word death in it. And it was deathless, They said it would scare people. So and then mindfulness, somehow that, they did keep Path to the Deathless, but somehow we added the word mindfulness. And yet death is the ultimate, the final experience that we have to encounter in this form, in this restricted form of a physical body. And if we see it just on cultural conditioning level or personal conditioning, then it's not politically correct to talk about it. It's not public situations. You never say. You always say they passed away, or she's gone to meet her maker, or when my mother died. 20 years ago, I went to the funeral, Catholic funeral, and they say, now she's up in heaven with God. Talk like that. How do you know? but it makes everybody feel good. Nice to think of my mother. If anybody deserves to be up in heaven with God, it would be her. And if God didn't rescue her, that would really really be totally unfair. But you see, you're just kind of catering to people's feelings, trying to make them feel good, or not facing, not reflecting. It's all kind of soothing with nice things to think about and pleasant concepts, nothing startling like, did you come here to die? And said, now Helen Jackman is dead. They wouldn't, that was terrible. things. Even now, the people don't think you shouldn't bring a child to a funeral because death is too much for a child to take, to see. So, they try to, fool us, and they don't give children credit for being able to handle the natural facts of life. They've got to hide it and pretend, or say you use kind of sentimental euphemisms. But in reflecting, this that's one thing I always liked in Thailand at their funerals, because they just said what it is, and they encourage us to really look at how it affects us. So it's very useful to learn, to understand our lives better, rather than just trying to cover everything up with kind of sweet words and like smothering you with pink cotton, sugar, sweetness. Because anything bitter, you don't want to, can't bear that. But the human individual, this is to be looked at and investigated. We're not trying to pretend or hide away from things, but really look and understand this experience of being born in a mortal form, this human form, in this realm. Also, this knowing from this mindfulness, sati sampajanya, intuitive awareness, and then reflecting from sound of silence, then noticing that the self is gone. There's awareness, there's consciousness, there's alertness. You're not in any trance. Totally present, but there's no concept arising. Just this sound of silence and presence, consciousness is like this. And so, just by observing it in this way that I'm doing right now, there's no Sumedho in this. It is what it is. So there's alertness. There's a sense of being fully present, centered. Now I'm listening to the sound of silence and reflecting with words, at the same time. I'm using these words to investigate this experience, this here and now, this resonating, reverberating, vibratory energy, called sound of silence, is like this. And so then the thinking mind stops. And you notice that the non-thinking is like this. You recognize. But when there's non-thinking, we don't notice that. We don't, in the conditioning process, we never notice that. It's completely ignored, and we have no actual cultural teachings about it, because our culture and civilization is all about becoming, about identifying with conditions, with being somebody, with thinking, with values and so forth. So even there are moments of, like when you have these, where your mind stops, your thinking mind stops. You have maybe one of these kind of spontaneous mystical experiences where the sense of your self-separation drop for some reason or other. Or you say like wonder, when something is truly wonderful, you wonder, your thinking stops. You're in the state of non-thinking, but you're fully alert and attentive. Or in this country they use the word gobsmacked, where you're so astounded something, your whole mind packs up, doesn't think anymore. You just stay, you've been kind of hit over the head or something, go, and and nothing, you aren't, how will I pay the electric bill? And so now this way of, in a situation like this where there's no life-threatening conditions that we know of at this moment, it's safe, they're all in the 8 precepts, etc. So we can just, we're not here, and there's no lions, bears, no dangerous mosquitoes, no pythons that might swallow us at any moment. We just, the shrine room, Amravati, everybody on, vowed to not kill anyone during this retreat. And then reflecting in this way, like it's the, when your life is in danger, you tend to, mindfulness is very kind of immediate, automatic. But in the daily life, where everything, modern materialism, and that gives us this false sense of security, and so we can just become, go to our flats, lock the door, switch on the burglar alarm, close the curtains, and completely fall apart into neurotic fears. So in this awakened state, recognizing this, this, it's natural, it's not created, it's not personal, is this way. And so anatta is like this. There's no Ajahn Sumedho in this, but it's certainly present, aware, intelligent. The gate to the death. This is the deathless. Then this is the real. And then appreciating the fact that you don't have to figure it out. It's not up to you to you start going back into doubt. Then you start, is this is this true? Or am I just fooling myself? Am I playing games with my mind? Does Ajahn Sumedho, does he really believe this, or is he deluded, or is he just trying to convince himself that this is the real, and I'm not quite so sure? What does the scriptures say? What do the Abhidhamma say? You're back into it again. So this, like doubt, vicikiccha, is the result of thinking. And that's why this is an intuitive state. It's not a thinking state. It's not about reason or logic or what scriptures say. It's recognized. And this is where, when I say trust yourself, on this intuitive level. Because on the thinking level, you don't trust yourself. We're always making ourselves uncertain, doubtful, because we think about ourselves. We don't recognize this, so we're constantly identifying with untrustworthy conditions. Where are your emotions going to take you? They can praise and blame, somebody you're wonderful and you feel happy, or you're a horrible person, you feel angry. Look how emotionally dependent we are on being respected or approved of, and fear of being disrespected, humiliated, put down, despised, thrown out, rejected by the world. And if we depend on, these, just on being respected and approved of on a personal level, then we always feel threatened by the fact that that easily changes. People's moods, people's reactions, they love you today and hate you the next day. So emotions, and my own emotions, are not trustworthy. They change. But this is trustworthy. The constancy of the supernal mind. Alert attention, but it's empty. And that emptiness, just reflecting this is emptiness, using the word this is emptiness, is just affirming this reality. Using those words is not, I'm experiencing emptiness as a kind of personal ability. Then it doesn't work. It's not mine. It is. There's no sense of me in this. And you discern it, you know this from insight. Yaya patipanno, isn't it? One who has insight. Insight isn't thinking, it's knowing in this direct way, knowing reality, not ideas and views and theories about reality. And then recognizing the kind of relief of not being a person. As soon as I, start getting lost in Ajahn Sumedho perceptions, and then all the whole world starts taking me over. Then all the memories of the past and fears and duties, responsibilities, positions, what other people think, the aging process, everything. It gets, automatically when you grasp the condition, I'm Ajahn Sumedho, and then the whole neurotic mess suddenly appears. All the complicated memories of the past and the tendencies, habitual tendencies, emotional habits, are then made operative. But when this, in this emptiness, in this awareness, then there isn't that. It's bright. There's clarity, discernment, and this is where. And trusting this, discerning, this is intuitive awareness, discernment. And then become, I'm a very sensitive person, and I'm, please don't do anything to upset me, because I'm very fragile today, and I just want you to know how I'm feeling, and please don't say things that upset me, because I know I'll just fall apart. Anyway, you're kind of asking the world to please don't say anything that offends or upsets me, because I'm so identified with the sense of my fragility that, and we can believe this, and then we expect others to go along with this, and so we miss each other. There's these kind of unconscious demands on others. Being head monk of a monastery, learning to reflecting in this way, I began to see years ago that one part of me, being the head monk and considered the teacher and so forth, with monks and nuns, I could see a part of me really was asking all of them to not offend me, to obey me, practice, do what I say, and then respect me, because I'm the teacher, and there was a kind of, I didn't say this directly, but this was always implied from this personal need to, when you're in a position where everybody kind of sees you as a leader, and you feel this sense of, because you're in a very dangerous position, very vulnerable, with all these people focused on you, and whatever you do is interpreted in highly personal ways. So somebody hate you, love you, respect you, condemn you, and then on a personal level, this is very threatening. You feel vulnerable. So then the reaction would be, I don't want to be in this position. I want to go to a cave. I want to be a hermit, where I'm not in in such a vulnerable state, because on a personal level, it's I don't like it. I don't want to be in this position. And then this implication, well, in order to, I can maybe intimidate them, tell them they should respect me, I'm the teacher, I'm taking the responsibility, I'm doing this, sacrificing my tranquility for you. And, so listening to this kind of weak, demanding, whinging personality, well, I began to really make it conscious and kind of bring it up quite intentionally, just to know it. So I don't do that. So I don't operate from that, because it would be harmful to me and to the people that have to live with me. Wouldn't fulfill any great purpose, would be giving the wrong impression and deluding myself and everyone else. So this is where this Yuttadhammo is. This is it. The supernal mind, intuition. This empty state of alert attention that doesn't have any quality, but it's certainly reality. Gate to the deathless, the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned, non-self, anatta, is this. Knowing Dhamma, then the way it is, all conditions are impermanent. Being able to discern the difference between attachment to conditions and non-attachment. Desire and desirelessness, conditioned and the unconditioned. 'd. 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 ' years ago, I saw this. I think it was Tibetan or something, but it was a saying: a lotus blooming in the midst of an inferno is indestructible. And then, like at Amaravati, lived here 25, 26 years, and it's living in a place like this where the community gets larger and larger. And then I could see how it affected people. They, one senior monk was just kind of shattered in this place, had to leave because he couldn't cope with all the kind of, so many people and different things happening. Seeing, this, and I could understand that because, on many levels I wanted to, would much prefer to go off back to Thailand. Go to those nice mountains, or up in the north, or Mae Hong Son near the Burmese border, or, and live in a cave, or have a nice little private meditation place and go on alms round into some village where people gave you very nice food. Listening to the sound of silence, and then having signs all around say, keep out. So this and so this is the kind of selfish tendency of a hermetic type. And Ajahn Chah would never let me do that. Every time I went off like that, he'd pull me back in. And so I can think, you're trying to disrupt my meditation. Because I used to but what he actually did was get me to look at this fear and kind of wanting to live in a place where nothing really upset me, or I didn't have any responsibilities. I began to see that. And once you see it, then you can let it go, So he was a living example himself of a great teacher, a great leader, which was surrounded. I mean, in the years that I lived with him, his fame grew, and there were only 3 branch monasteries when I went there in 1967, and now there are hundreds. And even though he's been dead, nearly 20 years, it's you go back in January to these meetings, and there are like 1,000 monks from all over the world come. Well, this is just one small Thai monk living in a rather remote part of Thailand as this, and then this great compassion. And yet he never, he was never complained about it or would run away from things, but he had this kind of humor and joyfulness that he seemed to manifest around him. That's why he was so attractive. So then this lotus blooming in the midst of an inferno, this is a pretty powerful image. Like a lotus is a delicate flower, isn't it? It's blooming, in the midst of an inferno, which is, hot and fiery, dangerous, harmful. So I determined to cultivate this sense of, then this mindfulness is like the lotus, isn't it? Seemingly delicate and easily, and if you're just looking at the inferno, you forget, you become heedless and just become frightened and reactive, and overwhelmed by the power, the burning sensation of samsara. So that's where this lotus then blooming in the midst of an inferno, this is what mindfulness is. It can seem very delicate and fragile at first, but it's indestructible once you take refuge in it, recognize it, cultivate it. And then the body is an inferno, isn't it? It's fire, your body's burning. The fire sermon, everything's burning. And suddenly you see that samsara is fire, that we're living in an inferno. Your own body is an inferno. And your emotions and all these conditions are burning. And we feel it, there's this feeling, but our refuge is in this lotus blooming in the midst of it all. This is mindfulness, in other words, sati sampajanya. So using this symbol, this kind of iconic form, a lotus in the midst of an inferno is indestructible. And once you forget that, then you get burned by the inferno. That's why there's suffering, dukkha, first noble truth. One becomes heedless, and then you find yourself being hurt, burned, suffering. So through the vicissitudes of monastic life, of Amaravati and so forth, then this is, determining this refuge, this awareness, no matter what's happening, how, the world changes and praise and blame, success, failure, whatever happens, relationship to the inferno is not being frightened of it or deluded by it or wishing there weren't any inferno. Because even going off to a hermitage in northern Thailand, inferno, I take the inferno with me. Still have a human body and senses. So then the sense of developing here and now rather than trying to run away from out of my personal tendencies, my sense of I don't want this, I want something else.